So I finally got a chance to go sit down and watch The Front Room. Kaylee and I missed it because all the bad reviews and we just couldn't get to it, and so we skipped it to watch other movies, and I finally got to it this morning. So I'm here to talk about it. Now, this movie is brought to us by Max and Sam Eggers, who are related, of course, to Robert Eggers from The Witch, The Lighthouse, Northman, and soon to be the Nosferatu remake. And that perked up my ears. I was like, oh, that's interesting. This is A24. This is related to one of the better filmmakers of the last decade. And it being A24, I was like, oh, wow. And then I got another wow by seeing Brandy as the lead actress of the movie, and I feel like I haven't seen her in forever. In fact, I went to IMDb to look up her filmography to see, like, am I crazy? Have I not seen this chick in forever? And yeah, I mean, she hasn't done much of anything outside of like a couple TV shows, like the Descendants movie, the most recent one, stuff like that, stuff I haven't seen. And I'm like, yeah, I really haven't seen her since I Know What You Did Last Summer. So it was interesting to see her back in an A24 film with the Eggers brothers. So yeah, let's talk about this. Now, this is about a couple who take in the husband's stepmother, who is this like religious bitch. She's, oh my good God. But they need her money, and she kind of holds it over their head like, you can either take me in and get the money, or you can cut me out and you get nothing. And they are on financial, they've fallen on financial hard times. And they need it, so they take her in, and they have to deal with it. Now, of course, they're in an interracial relationship, and she's like very old school and racist, and you get the gist. It's the in-laws from hell kind of scenario. Now, I almost made a video on this, and in fact, I'm very strongly considering making a legit, like, scripted video on this, because I find this to be kind of a fascinating topic. And that is like, what is it that people want from horror, and what horror is, right? Like, I'll word it better when I sit down to think about a script for that. But having now worked at Spirit Halloween for a little while, I got a job there maybe 3 weeks ago. And talking to these, like, more casual fans, as I would call them, I've noticed one common complaint, and that is that horror just isn't scary. These movies don't scare me, right? And I'm always baffled by this. Not only because, like, I personally just don't get scared by horror, so that's not really what I'm going to it for, but there's just so much more to horror than just like having attempts at trying to get people to jump or scream. Like, there's so many different ways you can scare people, right? And art is subjective, fear is subjective. Everybody has different things that they're afraid of. They have different things they get afraid from, right? Like, one movie can scare the fuck out of somebody and do absolutely nothing for the other person, so on and so forth. But horror is my favorite genre, not just because I love it, but because it is the most vast spectrum genre. It can cover a multitude of different sub-branches of horror. It can really explore so many different facets of, like, humanity and so many different things. You have horror comedies, and you have horror, like, we can go through the list of all the different subgenres that there are. And it's just so limiting to me that people, they kind of pigeonhole the genre into this very specific idea of, like, it has to scare me or it sucks. It's fine. You go to horror to be scared, right? Like, I get that concept in theory. Like, I go to comedies to laugh, right? I go to horror to be scared. I get it. But horror is so much more than that. And that being okay, so getting to the point of what I'm trying to say here is that this movie is completely misunderstood, in my opinion. Now, some people got it and just didn't like it, and that's fine. That's how I was with Speak No Evil. No matter how much I tell people I got the movie, I just didn't like it. They're like, no, you didn't get it. You'd like it if you got it. No, I wouldn't. So I'm not here to say, like, if you didn't like this movie, you didn't get it. Not at all. I just think the majority of people are not understanding this film at all. This is a dark comedy. It is presented as a horror film, for sure. But what I loved about this movie is that it is really fucking funny to me. Now, Fuego from the horror show and I kind of got in a back and forth. He fucking hated this. He thought it was absolutely terrible. And he understood that it was a comedy. He just did not find it funny. So he is that voice that's like, no, I got it. I just didn't like it. That's totally fine. If you got the movie and you didn't like it, fine. If you didn't get the movie and you didn't like it, that's fine as well. If you think you got the movie and that it's not a comedy, that's fine as well. Right? So all these different things can be fine. But for me, this is clearly like a dark comedy about in-laws, about having to deal with your significant other's terrible family and all of the baggage that comes along with having a partner. And this is the in-law from hell. This is like the most awful human being imaginable. And I thought that Catherine Hunter, who plays Solange in this, was terrific. I thought she was just as awful as a human could possibly be, and her performance was hilarious. It kind of reminded me a bit of Throw Mama from the Train, which is like one of my favorite comedies. And the way that she treats her and the way that she talks, it does remind me a bit of Throw Mama from the Train. I could quote that movie. Like, I was gonna start quoting a bunch of her lines, but I'll refrain. The husband in this is aggravatingly useless, but that adds to it. That's the humor of the movie, is that she's so alone in this, that her husband he's somewhat supportive. I don't want to say he's completely dismissive. He's not. But he is a complete wimp. And he just cannot help her. And he's like constantly going off to work because he doesn't want to deal with it. And he's trying to make partner or whatever the hell in his law firm. And just all of the stuff that's happening with Solange, the grandmother. And so many moments. There's a lot of like poop and pee. And we know from Eggers' movies, he really likes a good fart joke. Like, if you saw The Lighthouse, there's a lot of fart humor in that movie. Way more than I was ever expecting. I was expecting 0 when I went to see that. And there is a ton of fart humor in that. And it's funny because it's like this very super serious movie with these really damn good actors, this really good production. It's got this very super serious story. And then you've got like people farting in each other's faces and like all this kind of stuff. That's funny to me. And this movie does that with a lot of like her incontinence, and you know, there's scenes where she's completely freaking out and she's speaking in tongues, and she's like, you know, hiding what she's doing, and then like behind the back of the son, she's like smiling at her, and like it was hilarious. It had like the humor of like, there's so many like, I don't know, man. I had a great time with this. I'm not gonna lie. I was in the theater with 2 other people, and we were laughing throughout. And I talked to another friend of mine. I think it was Jordan from the Sinister Cinema Facebook group. I think that's who that was. And they were like, "Yeah, man. Like, I thought this movie was hilarious. I loved this movie, right?" And I was the only person, and I was in like a pretty much a packed theater. I was the only person in the theater laughing. And I was like, damn, like, I think that's probably true of this. So if you're finding this film funny, then you are the target audience, right? I think that's what it's going for. It's like that movie. It's like movies like Nothing But Trouble, right? Or The Burbs or something like that, where the horror, it's like disguised as a horror movie. but it's all humor under it. It's all like dark satirical humor. And that humor is going to work for you or it isn't. And that's going to make or break the film. Because if you go into expecting a horror movie and you're like, this isn't scary, this is actually stupid, they'll be like, it's unintentionally funny. No, it's intentionally funny. This is purposely funny. So I'm glad that I vibed with this movie correct. And you know, I don't set out to be some contrarian. That's not the attempt with the channel. I always want to go into like every film. If you go into dislike a movie, you are wasting your time and you should probably do something else. You should want to like every movie and every show and everything that you do, of course, right? Like, why would you want to not have a good time? That just doesn't make any sense to me. So I went into this, of course, wanting to like it. And the movie has to go and try really hard to get me to come down on it. And I was just entertained throughout. I really liked Brandy in this. As I said, I already talked about Katherine Hunter, who is the standout from this movie. She's fucking hilarious and insane. She gives it her all. You want to talk about a wild performance from this year? This chick is not going to get anywhere near the love and attention and praise that she deserves for this role, because I thought she was phenomenal. I thought she was the in-law mom from hell, the worst person you could possibly have living in your house. The annoyance level of her, she's like problem child, right? She's that kid that you want to just smack, because that's what it comes down to, right? Like when an old person gets that old and they are incapable of taking care of themselves, she's not only dealing with a baby of her own that she's birthed, but she's dealing with a baby of her own that she wants nothing to do with, and she's already stressed out of her mind. Her husband's not around, no one's helping her out, and she's having to deal with this racist, overtly religious, insanely religious person who's talking about all this scripture and all this crap, and she's bringing things into the house because she has money and taking over every aspect of her life. This is hell on earth. So it is horror 100%. The situation is horrific. So to say like, oh well, it's not a horror movie, then 100% it's a horror film. It's so the situation around it is like it, but it's very relatable for somebody who has awful in-laws that they have to deal with. Like if you have had to deal with your husband or your wives or your partner's parents, especially if you've had to take them into your home and they're suffering from any ailments like dementia or any of those kinds of things, and incontinence, and if you have that going on in your life, this would be really relatable and probably very funny, if not traumatizing. You might actually find this film scary. So I actually really enjoyed this. I'm going to be one of the rare reviews online, and I'm fine with that. That is this channel. I am proud to have this channel that way, not because I'm trying to be different and buck the trends or any of that shit. It's because this is how I genuinely feel. But I find the limitations of people's thoughts towards horror very depressing. Right? Like, if that's all you think horror is meant to do, is to just like throw things at the screen for you to go, ah, or to like cycle, like there's so many different styles of scary too. There's so many different styles of horror, so many different ways to explore the human consciousness, mortality, anything. Literally, that's why horror is by far and away the greatest genre in film. Like, by far and away, is because it can do it all. It is the most versatile, and it pairs so well with every other genre. So well. Horror comedy, horror drama, horror action, horror whatever, horror romance. I've seen them all work so well. And it's the horror that allows it to be as bold, to delve deep into a place where all other genres typically shy away from. That's why horror is so fucking great. It doesn't have to scare you. It can make you laugh. It can make you cry. It can make you scream. It can make you whatever. So, I don't know. I just, when I was hearing all the different complaints on it, and being, now having worked at Spirit and talking to all these people who were like, horror sucks now and there's nothing good anymore, then stop fucking watching it. Why are you wasting your time? And then you talk to them and they've watched like 3 movies from this year, or like maybe 10 in the last 5 years. And you're like, you don't even know what the fuck you're talking about. You're not even watching anything. How can you possibly have an opinion on something that you don't even watch? I've watched more 2024 horror films. I'm almost at 200. I'm at 190 currently. More than people have watched in the last 10 years. So it's just baffling to me that people are like this with the genre, who claim to be like big fans of it. It's fine if you just like the old stuff, but stop bitching about the new stuff if you don't watch it. And if you do watch it and you are hating everything that you watch, then it's probably time to find a new genre, because it's just not working for you anymore and you're wasting your time. Anyway, I'm wasting my time now, but I had a good time with this. Yeah, if this sounds even somewhat up your alley and you can go into it with the right mindset, give it a shot. It is having no one go to it right now. This is going to bomb hard. I think this has the worst opening for a horror film this year, and that's a damn shame. Because if you want to compare this to shit like Imaginary from earlier this year, and The Strangers Chapter 1, oh my god, this is a million times better than those garbage ass films. This was fun. I would watch this again 100%. I'll probably show it to Kaylee. She's going to be grossed out by all the poop and all that shit in this. I thought it was funny as hell. That's my take on it. And horror doesn't have to be scary. It just has to be entertaining or connect with you in some way. That's it. I'm done. See you in the comments. Adios.